Welcome to this seminar. We will start with a short cultural act. It's a short film of Helena Avesalo, and she is from Malmö. Please.
Är du kvinna? Tryck 1. Fel val. Försök igen.
The impossible choice was that. Okay, my name is Birgitta Asseskog. I'm a private expert, but also former senior advisor in the governmental offices in Sweden. And I worked in the gender equality unit for 20 years or more. And I will facilitate this seminar on gender mainstreaming and gender equality in organizations. This part will focus on new demands and strategies for the future. We have to build a vision for the future. Yesterday, we had the first part of this seminar, and during that seminar, the qualified experts formulate problems. First, they mapped out the current situation and formulate some problems. When the UN held the Fourth World Conference on Women in Being in 1995, the world's government adopted the Platform for Action. No world conference has been held since then. The need is great, but the fear of a backlash is even greater. For this reason, the Nordic Forum is now organized here in Malmö, and it is a continuation of Nordic conferences, the first in Oslo in 1988, and then in Åbo, 1994. These conferences gathered thousands of activists, organizations, and politicians, and the result was concrete proposals to promote equality between women and men. Whatever the UN decides now regarding the Fifth World Conference, Nordic Forum here is important in order to identify challenges and possibilities in the implementation of the Being Platform for Action and to achieve the goals in the platform: gender equality, development, and peace. The forum will give us the space to formulate demands and to send them to the Nordic governments and other politicians. There is a draft final document which I guess you've seen on the web, or you have got it here perhaps, but they are still working on it. It's a document which has been prepared during 1.5 years by the 200 women's organizations behind the Nordic Forum. And the document is a declaration of intent for the future based on 12 themes of this forum. I would like to now introduce our panelists today, or I won't introduce them. I hope they will introduce themselves. So please, Martina, if you start.
Hi. My name is Martina Skrak, and I'm a municipal commissioner in the city of Malmö with the responsibility for gender equality issues.
Okay. Thank you. And
I'm Þorgerður Einarsdóttir. Sorry.
Close to the microphone, I think.
I'm Þorgerður Einarsdóttir. I'm a gender studies professor at the University of Iceland.
And I am Hanna Ylöstalo, and at the moment I work as a university teacher in adult education in School of Education, Tampere, but previously I have done research on promoting gender equality in working life in Work Research Center in University of Tampere.
Thank you. I would also like Katarina to introduce herself. Katarina is the rapporteur of this seminar. And you also have a message to the audience.
Yes. My name is Katarina Kvist, and I've been working.
Micro.
Do you hear me now? Yes. My name is Katarina Almqvist, and I am the rapporteur of this discussion. I've been working with gender equality and gender mainstreaming for many, many years, but I would like to listen very closely to what you say, and if you say anything that isn't already in the draft, mentioned in the draft, and maybe should be there, I will try to write it down and send it to the committee so they can maybe put it into the final document. And I also would like you to say to all of you, if you have anything to complete this document, please write it down and give it to me before you leave the room. Okay?
Thank you. And when the drafting committee has finalized the document, it will be handed over to the ministers of gender equality in the Nordic countries, and also to the UN Women Executive Director, Mrs. Mlambo Nguka, during the closing ceremony on Sunday. In order to support your contribution to the final document and for your information also, I would like to show you the part of the draft final document with the demands related to gender mainstreaming. So if we can have the demands so that you can read it. The Nordic Forum demands that the Nordic governments anchor and specify gender mainstreaming in national laws, regulations and processes across all its policies, and adopt and fund specific actions for the effective implementation of gender mainstreaming. Government agencies are mandated to include a gender equality perspective in all its activities and to properly implement gender mainstreaming, which entails training of all relevant personnel, gender budgeting and other control processes, gender and gender equality analysis, as well as mechanisms and procedures for monitoring. Action plans are formulated with guidelines, criteria, indicators, values, key performance indicators, and sex disaggregated data and statistics in order to identify and eliminate obstacles to the effective integration of gender equality. The Nordic governments use gender mainstreaming in all international commitments, including the post-2015 agenda and in the Sustainable Development Goals. The last point is private sector employers integrate the gender perspective into their operations. So, if you have anything to amend or propose to amend, please do. Yes?
I would just like to know, how would you translate into Swedish gender mainstreaming?
If you use the micro, please.
Yes, I was just thinking about the term gender mainstreaming. How would you translate that into Swedish?
We translate it to jämställdhetsintegrering. Och det var svar på din fråga. Ja. Any other questions? Otherwise, I would like to really start the discussion with the panel. And I would like to ask you as an introduction. What? Yes? Do you have another question? Of course. Didn't see you. Sorry.
Yes, hello. I wondered, this document is supposed to be, it's going to the governments of the Nordic countries. And how about the private sector? I mean, how do you include them through the governments, or who is to talk to the private sector about this?
Who is
responsible to involve the private sector? Are you turning directly to the private sector, or are the government supposed to do it?
Well, I guess that the Nordic Forum and the organizations will turn directly to the private sector also. I mean, the document is prepared for the governments. Yes, but I mean, yeah, no, I don't know. Of course, you can trust the governments to contact the private sector, but I think that the organizations will do it themselves. Thank you. Okay, as a start of this discussion, I would like to ask you, the panelists now, to give a personal reflection during 5 minutes each on the new challenges as regards implementation of gender mainstreaming in their own countries. And I don't know, perhaps Martina, would you like to start for Sweden?
I can do so, and I will not talk about Sweden, I will talk about Malmö, and I hope that's okay. And I will actually start to tell you, a few minutes to tell you about the gender mainstreaming work in the city we're in. We have been working with gender mainstreaming since 2011, and then we adopted the development plan for gender mainstreaming, and this was a result of a political decision. The development plan has 2 elements. First, how Malmö City is as an employer, and second, how we give service to the citizens of Malmö. And the goal is that Malmö will be a gender-equal city by 2020. Gender mainstreaming is integrated in all municipal activity, and it involves making gender visible, analyzes differences, and taking action. And the plan is structured so that each committee and department has responsibility and tasks. And we have been, and it is important that the place responsibility where it belongs, near managers and leaders. And we have invested in education for personnel, for leaders and bosses, both in the general subject of gender and also in different topics and to different groups of employees. Also because gender equality is not a question about opinion, it's a question about knowledge. As the person who has the political responsibility, it has been incredibly important for me to see results. It's never just okay to just talk gender equality. You have to do gender equality. And in Malmö, we have as a slogan that we want to go from words to action. And though we have only begun for 2.5 years, we have only begun to scratch the surface, but we have seen some concrete results. And I will give you some examples. We compared professions, and we saw that female-dominated jobs had lower salaries, and we raised the wages by 1,000 Swedish crowns per month for over 1,000 employees, and now have a more equal pay between women and men. The leisure department also looked at how they advertised for caretakers at sport grounds, and we saw that in the ads part of the language used was very masculine associated, like you must be able to drive a heavy ice machine. But when we actually looked at the job, the language was not related to it, because in the job you have more of social contacts, doing park work, cleaning and things like that. So the ad was changed, we gender washed it, and received almost 50-50 applications from men and women instead of 20-80 like it used to be. And now I have also more number of women employed in these jobs. We found out the girls and boys did not feel that they were treated equally in school. And when we look at school results, there were differences is what they difference in subject and what they have difficulty with. And we now have worked with gender education, which means that the teachers in schools and preschools have tools to develop their own teaching. And we now have a trend when the result gap between the sexes are decreasing. This is a positive side effect, I will say, in working for working in the goal of that every child should have 100 possibilities, not only 2. I think it's very important to see concrete results, and we shall demand concrete results, because the concrete results shows the injustice, and it shows that we are able to do a change. And I think concrete result awakes an awareness, and it helps us to move from the question if gender equality to the question how gender equality. And to do this and to see concrete results, I think we also have to invest in our common welfare. Thank you.
Thank you, Martina. Very interesting to hear that you have reached concrete results. You raised women's wages and first step towards equal pay.
I hope so.
All municipalities should work in the same way. Okay, thank you very much. And Thorgerður?
Hi, everyone. I'm a gender studies professor at the University of Iceland, as I said in the beginning. And I've been involved with gender equality since I can remember. I'm going to tell you about my involvement, and the first thing is that I've been involved in practical gender equality work. For example, at my workplace, the University of Iceland, I was at the Equal Opportunities Committee back in 1998, 2000, and later 2010 in my school, when the university had been divided up into 5 schools. Secondly, I've had a course. I've been developing a course, which I'm going to tell you a little bit about. And I've been doing research on gender equality, gender mainstreaming. That's not my main research area, but I've touched upon it. So, and based on this, I'm going to reflect on all these aspects. But I would like to tell you now in the beginning a little bit more about the course that I have been developing at the University of Iceland. Let me first say that gender mainstreaming is legalized in Iceland. We have it in the national law. We have it in the law on equal status of men and women. We have had that since 2008. So this is the official strategy to get gender equality in Iceland. So I have, since 2005, even before we got gender mainstreaming in the legislation, we had it then in the government's strategic plan on gender equality. I have been developing this course, which I have called Gender Studies for Practical Purposes, and I think it's rather unusual to have a university course like this, at least in the Nordic countries. And in the course, I try to integrate both theoretical knowledge and practice or activism. So we try to dig into theoretical issues, being very practical at the same time as we're trying to be critical, take into account the most recent critical research on gender mainstreaming. And what the students do in my course is that they choose a workplace or a working unit or a sector or something and do kind of a case study. So they apply gender mainstreaming in the course. And actually we make use of a Swedish model, gender mainstreaming manual, that has been developed by Ann Boman, I think. I'm sure it has been developing since then. It has been translated into Icelandic. And also lots of other tools we use. And this is a kind of a process of discovery for the students. So they discover the gendered dimensions of the working units they choose, at the same time as they learn about the tool, gender mainstreaming, the ideology behind, and the most recent research on it. And this has given me, I've had this course since 2005, quite many years now. It has been developing, and many students have taken the course, so I have lots and lots of examples, and I have by now great insight into the situation in Iceland. So I know how the situation is, and I think I know what can be done, because the units that my students have chosen are of different kinds. Many examples from the school system, from the municipalities, different kind of workplaces, fishing industry, construction industry, elderly care, organizations, non-profit organizations, political parties, ministries, mass media, etc., etc. And the workplaces they choose can be their current workplaces or previous or something that they find on the internet or whatever. Some of them have connections to the workplaces, some don't have that. So I think I know by now how the situation in Iceland, whether we are doing gender mainstreaming, which I claim that we're not doing, and also what can be done. And I would like to expand later on in this session and give you maybe 2 examples of good examples, best practices. But I think I'll let this be enough for now.
Thank you very much, Victoria. Well, there must be lots of people involved in gender mainstreaming in Iceland. All your students, all the workplaces and people working there.
My students are involved. Knowledge. My students are involved, not all the workplaces.
Okay. Thank you. And Hanna, about Finland?
Like I said in the beginning, I have been doing research on promoting gender equality in working life, and I have done research mainly on gender equality planning. But about 2 years ago, I did research in Ministry of Defense in Finland, and I interviewed people who were responsible for gender mainstreaming in Ministry of Defense, and this means practically everybody who works there, because according to Finnish Equality Act, all the people working in ministries and in municipalities are responsible for gender mainstreaming. And my data was, I interviewed those people, like not all the employees in the ministry, but quite a few of them. And then I also went through a pile of documents where gender perspective should have been mainstreamed, but it really wasn't. And I found that people were like really confused about gender mainstreaming, and they did not really know what it meant, why it was done, and how did it relate to their own everyday work. And those people who knew about it, they felt like they didn't have the support or the resources to do it properly. And because of this, the results of gender mainstreaming were quite poor in the organization. And despite of the fact that there has been lots of gender mainstreaming or training for gender mainstreaming in the organization, and the equality group of the ministry, they had put a lot of effort to promote gender mainstreaming in the ministry, but with very weak results. And I think gender mainstreaming is a transformative strategy on paper, but the potential of the strategy, it seems to get lost when it's implemented. And after my research, I thought that have we lost the point? I think people in the ministry, they were focused on techniques about gender mainstreaming, and they were focused about statistics and how they look, and the gender mainstreaming, it had became the main goal. It has become the goal in itself, but it's not. Gender mainstreaming is a strategy to promote gender equality. So. Gender equality is the goal, not gender mainstreaming. And I think that goal should really be clarified.
Thank you, Hannah. I think that was extremely important that you mentioned the last part. There is confusion regarding the concept gender mainstreaming around. But we need to keep that in mind. It's only the strategy. And we're only speaking of the strategy here, how to reach the goal. What tools do we use? How do we work? What is successful? What is not? And yesterday we mapped out the situation, as I said, and it was quite evident that the main problem when you try to implement gender mainstreaming is the lack of political will. And this is one of the main prerequisites for gender mainstreaming, that you have a strong political will and engagement. And I would like you to reflect a bit on this. What is your experience? Do you have any idea of how to improve the situation? Can we create a political will if there is no? Okay, Martina.
I think I have to take this one. I'm the political representative. I'm a member of the Left Party. I will say like this: there are no shortcuts, and we have actually never ever gotten anything for free. The rights we have today is because of the struggle that the women's movement have done before us, and I think it's important to remember that the rights is nothing ever given. And I think the strength to make a change in Malmö is because there is, and I'm a part of a political movement of people who have organized themselves for their rights and actually demanding justice. I think it's important. It gives a strength that is crucial. I also think it's a question of a different political view. If you're looking at gender equality or gender inequality as a structure, and that you want common solutions to change it, or if you talk about individualism, because then you don't want to have the common solutions at the same time, so strong as. So I think it's also a difference between the right and the left in a political way. If we see injustice as a common problem, we have to demand common solutions, and that's a different in political view. So a strong organization, a strong women organization, putting those demands, I think, is the most important thing to create a political will.
Okay, to education, information, or to really find ways how to do it. You said that the politicians, they need to know what to do, how to do it.
I would say that we never have better politicians than ones we demand to have to be. A
demand from above?
No, a demand from the bottom. If you want to have politicians making something, it has to be a movement telling them to do something.
Yeah,
I think.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, I can say something about the political will as well. What do we mean when we talk about political will or lack of political will? We take the University of Iceland as an example. We've had, I think we have our 4th gender equality program now at the university. And now I'm talking about the university as a workplace. They're very, very progressive and ambitious, these gender equality plans or programs. And they are prepared and done, in the different faculties and departments, and they go through one instance after the other, and they end in the university council, which is the top-level administration. And they're adopted, more or less, all these ambitious things. We're going to do gender mainstreaming, gender budgeting, and so on and so forth. Then kind of nothing happens. So where are the hindrances? As I see it, it's lack of resources. We adopt very ambitious plans, no resources. We may have maybe one position, equal opportunities officer or specialist, but no money to do anything whatsoever. And also when it comes to implement, then we can see that there is kind of lack of interest, and as you have said, both of you, people don't understand the term, the concept, what does gender mainstreaming mean. We have had, at the University of Iceland, we have had a review of the, I think we have had 3 reviews or utredning, evaluations of the gender equality work. And they show that people don't understand this gender mainstreaming that they're supposed to do all the time. So there's a lack of interest, don't understand it. There's indifference, kind of, and resistance, and even hostility, I would say, against all this. So I think we have to dig deeper into what do we mean by this and how do we move forward. And when I was preparing for this session, I looked into what do scholars see as the preconditions for gender mainstreaming. We know all this. It's gender awareness or knowledge, expertise, training is one part. Another part is this political will. We have that. But then I found in some older texts from 2001, Dutch scholar Mieke Verloo pointed out in a paper that we also need mobilizing forces, mobilizing networks, some driving force. And I can also see that we're talking about that here. You said that it has to be a pressure from the bottom. And I think in Iceland partly we've had feminist activists among the academics all over the university that have been pushing. So I was thinking maybe we had more, we need to be more rebellious. We at the bottom, we in the field somehow. We have to be more troublesome, annoying to the system, to the central administration, to the university council, to the deans, I would say. Maybe we have been too well behaved, and I think that this pressure has to come from the bottom somehow. And we have one example from the University of Iceland that I can tell you about. We have, as I said, very ambitious gender equality plans, a program which says that we will not tolerate sexual harassment, pornified culture, no pornification, and so on. But we have many, many examples from this, not least from the students magazines. They have these, what do you call it? We have this dude culture. We have gentlemen's night out. Do you have that in other countries? The students' organizations organize male-only night outs and women-only and so on. So we got actually one of my colleagues complaining about something like this. And there were more things going on at the same time, so we got more complaints, and I was on the Gender Equality Committee. So we kind of collected the complaints, and all of a sudden we managed to put pressure on the gender equality officer, the specialist, and the university council, and our rector. So, like by coincidence, we got the pressure from below. And I've been thinking maybe we should be more strategic in this, mobilize, activate the mobilizing forces, find some way to that.
Thank you, Turjard. You really, that was a very positive example of what Martina asked for, actually. This is the pressure. You can compare to our situation earlier in the 60s, 70s, 80s in Sweden. We have really hard pressure from women's organizations on the development of towards gender equality, and a lot happened. So I think that was really a clear message, how to create the political will, or a stronger political will, so that it happens. Okay, you wanted to add something, Martina?
Yes. No, I would just want to say that I really think it's very important, because I'm a politician who want to do something, but I will never be able to if I don't have the strength from behind with me to do just the things we have been doing in Malmö. It has been a fight. It's actually been a political fight if we even should do gender mainstreaming, which maybe not just is a method and not even a goal. It has been a political fight if we should put resources to raise the wages. It has been a political fight if we should put resources to work with gender in school. So just please be more rebellious.
Well, we have a lot of representatives, I hope, from women's organizations and the civil society also. Yes, Hannah?
Yeah, I would like to comment on the political will as well. I think one of the reasons why we don't have political will is that, at least in Finland, and I would say that perhaps in other Nordic countries too, we are used to believing that we are the gender equal part of the world, and that gender equality is pretty much achieved already, and that's why we are not really committed to put effort on promoting equality, because, I mean, what's the point if we are already equal? And Martina said in the beginning that we should not just talk about equality, we should do that. But at least in Finland, we are not even talking about it, I think. And there is like this paradox of equality in Finland, that Finnish people are really proud of being equal, but at the same time talking about equality or inequality especially, it's really like irritating, and there is lots of resistance towards it. And because of this, there is not political will, and this is all seen on the grassroots level in the workplaces where they are supposed to do the gender mainstreaming. And this can be seen, for example, that gender equality, it has this obligation to yield. It's considered as something like rhetorically, it's something that is important, but there is always something that is more important when we are distributing resources in the workplaces. And so it's something that it's easy to forget. And well, I don't, since I'm not like politician or politically like orientated, I don't really have the answers how to create that political will, but I think we heard really good examples about before, and I really like the idea of misbehaving.
Thank you, Hanna. Yes, you verified that there are no resources if there is no political will, of course. In the draft final document from this conference, there is a demand to the Nordic governments to anchor and specify gender mainstreaming in national legislation. This is done in Finland and in Norway. Norway is not represented here. It's done also, as I understand, in Iceland, not in Sweden yet, not gender mainstreaming at least. But governments are in place for 4 years, and this is I mean, this legislation or legal provisions, do you think that helps? As I understood, it was not, it didn't help in Iceland. It was you wanted to have more pressure in order for something to happen. So it's not enough. Of course, it could be a good start, but we have to go on and find other methods also. The governments, they are in place for 4 years, and this is a short period if you aim to implement gender mainstreaming, because this is a long-term process. Perhaps it's not a political issue. It's very difficult to make the politicians interested in that. Can that be a reason why politicians don't prioritize gender mainstreaming?
Maybe I could say something, because this is in place in Iceland, this inclusive legalization on gender mainstreaming. And actually it's very inclusive, as it, if you just read it literally, as it stands in the gender equality law. It says that gender mainstreaming is supposed to be, or is to be, the tool or the method. So we think it also applies to the private sector, because someone mentioned that before. But it seems to me that we have different kind of hindrances, so to speak. One is that, which we've been talking about before, people don't understand. People think that gender mainstreaming is to think about gender, and what we've seen in the University of Iceland, the evaluations I was talking about, is that people think that if they are thinking about gender all the time, then they're mainstreaming. Yeah, we are mainstreaming all the time. I'm always thinking about gender. The managers say, people responsible for different units. And I think the same might apply to the politicians. They really think they are gender mainstreaming because they every now and then think about gender. I also think there might be a danger in all this, legalizing gender mainstreaming, because we're now having a discussion about diversity mainstreaming. And in Icelandic municipalities, also at the University of Iceland, among some other workplaces, we have extended the equality work to include race, age, sexuality, and so on. And this has been a very thankful opportunity for those who are against gender, something, feminist issues, to kind of get rid of the gender thing. Okay. So we have a firm framework, legal framework, regulations for the gender work, while it's been counteracted by people who don't want to be involved in it, and also by people who jump on this diversity thing without being so supportive to these marginalized groups. So it's like what I'm trying to say is that they use it in an opportunistic way. So I think there's also a danger in having the legal framework so strong without having ways to implement it or seeing the hindrances. Yeah. So that's something I want to put into a discussion.
Okay, yes, Hannah?
I think a problem about gender equality legislation, at least in Finland, is that it's quite soft legislation. It's based on rather recommendations than obligations, and that's why workplaces don't take it that seriously. There are no consequences if you don't obey the law. And actually, even some of the politicians don't obey the law. There was this politician who said in some newspaper interview that she was foolish to hire young women because they went on maternity leave, and she felt that that affected her career. And there was a feminist discussion about that even the politicians, they don't obey the laws that they make themselves. And I think this is also a sign of lack of political will. And if there is no political will, then the legislation is not a solution. Yeah.
Okay. I think in the draft final document, it is said that you should anchor and specify gender mainstreaming in the national legislation and regulations and so forth. Perhaps we could think of how to strengthen this sentence so that it is really not only soft legislation, it should be really obligatory or compulsory to do it. Implementation was another problem identified yesterday regarding the gender mainstreaming strategy. It was clear that action plans, strategies, guidelines, tools usually are in place. But the main problem is implementation. And I wonder if you have any ideas on how to tackle this problem. Do we need to improve the organization of gender mainstreaming? What perspective would be relevant? You said a bottom-up perspective. It's important to have a pressure. But what about the top-down perspective? Or do we need both? And how should the national, regional, and local levels be related? What are the main target groups to attack? I mean, for information or for education, for training, and so forth. And stakeholders. What is the role of civil society? It's the role to put a pressure. We've already spoken about that, but I think that might also have a role in the implementation. What is your opinion about these issues? Who wants to start?
I can try.
Yes, Martina.
From the bottom and up, I was mostly talking about the civil society putting pressure on the politicals, because I think when it's come to implementing the gender mainstreaming strategies, it has to be actually the other way around. I think it's very important that the politicals and the highest levels have demands and goals who they follow up. Like leaders and managers should have responsibility in their work to work with gender mainstreaming. And I think also it's important that you are giving the support so that the employees in the municipal can work with gender mainstreaming, because to do a gender analysis isn't the most easy thing always to do. So there has to be a support organization to work with it. And I also think it's important to see, like I was talking in the beginning, to see concrete results of the work, because that's a way of implementing it too. When you are shown results, concrete results, it's wake awareness and you want to work with it. So it's important to highlight concrete results. And of course it can take time, but actually we have results in Malmö, and we have we took the development plan for gender mainstreaming just 2011. So of course you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Maybe I would like to comment on this as well. I think that legislation, organization, tool, methods, if you take start with the legal framework, the regulatory thing, I think that's a necessary but not sufficient condition for all this. It facilitates. It's a facilitating factor. But I think it's important not to focus too much on all these formal technical things, because the implementation, what we're talking about now, the gap between all the knowledge we have, all the tools and methods we have, and implementation, that's not really organizational conditions lacking. It's more the pressure, the mobilization of civil society, or as I said before, feminist grassroots activism somehow, to get all the system into motion somehow. So that's more of a problem as I see it. I don't think the big thing is whether we have soft laws or strong laws, as in Iceland, or we managed to do a whole lot of things, the feminist movement earlier on in history, without having all these regulations. So I think it's like the driving force we have to activate somehow to get the pressure, because of course it's a great success to have all this institutionalized and recognized as a legitimate public thing. I mean, it's a part of public administration to have gender mainstreaming and so on and so forth. But I think that we need some driving force, mobilizing factors. And I think that's us, the people, who very important with concrete examples, with results, but more force, more pressure somehow.
Yeah, I really agree with that, and I think we need all kinds of things. We need this force, and we need these techniques, and like all kinds of actions at the same time. And I think we should stop talking about gender inequality or equality or promoting equality or doing gender mainstreaming as it was something that was quite simple, because at least in Finland it has been introduced to, for example, ministries as something that you can do along with your everyday duties, and it's because they don't want to frighten the people about that, because there is lots of work anyway. But it's not simple, and it's about power and privilege. So it's not a harmonious process either. And if we oversimplify gender inequality or equality and gender mainstreaming, then I'm just quite worried about what kind of equality we will end up promoting in that case. And I think on a grassroots level, what we need is negotiation about what are we striving for. What is that equal society? What does it look like that we are trying to achieve?
Thank you. We were discussing the goals intensively yesterday also. The need for national goals. You need to have national goals, you need to have specific targets in order to know what to reach. And in that case, of course, also monitoring and evaluation is very important. And what do you think about that strategy also? If the politicians really set national goals or also goals at the different levels, regional level, local level, and so forth, and then you have continuing monitoring and evaluation, wouldn't that make also a pressure on the politicians to deliver? Or do we already have that?
In Malmö we have goals that we have to follow up, and the national goals, I don't know how they are followed up actually. I can't remember that we as a municipal have to answer to a higher level about the gender equality goals. Maybe we should do that. I think, again, it is important to not only demand strategies, like some of us have been saying, but to demand results. And I think it's also, we have talked lightly about it, to demand resources, actually. And not only resources to the gender mainstreaming work, but resources to actually do equality. Sometimes I like to say, like, have you seen the movie Jerry Maguire? No? No one? He says, show me the money. And I think that's important. And I think also to do this, I think it's important to demand that we invest in our common welfare. Because I think in the common welfare it's important for women's independence, of course, we know historically. And also because it's an arena to let other values be governed, values of equality, solidarity, and people's needs, instead of money and profit maximizing, maybe. And I think it's an arena for common solutions to common problems, as I was saying. And I think that's important feminist issue and statement to take, that we want to have common solutions, because injustice is a common problem. So put the money where we can govern it together, I say.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to say something about goals as well. I think it's important to have goals, of course, but the risk is that we don't set ambitious goals, that we set goals that are easy to reach, superficial goals that make them, then they might get away with very shallow things, implementation, set goal about minor things, and then they can show concrete results, and then they can say that yeah, we're gender mainstreaming, look at this, but they're not gender mainstreaming the most important issues. So I would be afraid of the risk of complacency. As someone talked about before, we are among the most gender equal countries in the world, so it's not that much left, and we're doing this and that. So yeah, I'm afraid of the risk of complacency. I would like to, the point you mentioned here, what kind of society are we aiming at? So I think we have to always have that in mind as well. And also how are we using gender mainstreaming? I mentioned here before the risk of diluting gender mainstreaming with diversity mainstreaming. And I just want to clarify that I'm very much for diversity, and I think we have to, a good step would be to continue with gender mainstreaming, to expand gender mainstreaming with diversity mainstreaming, not change the whole concept. So that we're always aware of the diversity within both the group of women and men. So I'm very strongly for that. But I think it's a risk that we're always occupied with the minor things and don't address the whole issue. Are we going along the system too much? Are we letting gender mainstreaming being adopted by neoliberal thinking? Are we too much going with the system? So I think these are really important questions that you brought up. What kind of society are we aiming at? What do we mean by gender equality?
Yes.
And we should also remember that gender equality means quite different things to different groups of people and different people. Like if you say that you are in favor of gender equality, it can mean very different things. Like, for example, women's right to work is one form of equality. Women's right to stay at home and take care of their children, it's one form of equality. So that's what I meant earlier when I said that we should clarify the goal and negotiate about that, and really really think about what we are really aiming for.
Thank you. Yeah. I think that's also a main challenge for the future, as you mentioned, this diversity issue and intersectionality, which it is called also. And there is always a risk if you already had scarce resources for gender mainstreaming. It has really proved difficult to include a lot of perspective in the same process because the gender perspective is diluted and the resources are even more scarce. But this is really what we have to challenge. Another thing which was discussed if we change a little bit the focus is that it relates to resources, but one of the problems yesterday was really that the implementation of gender mainstream is often done through projects, and usually projects are external, are funded by external money, for instance from the governments at local level, The projects are funded by EU money in many of our Nordic countries. And Gertrud Åström wrote an article during the late 1990s about gender mainstreaming as a sideline process. And she underlined the need to bring the annex into the main building. And this is really a tricky part today also. Do you have any examples, or do you have a vision for the future of how to best transform a project into ordinary daily work, and how to create ownership and leadership commitment for the follow-up and continuing work when the project is over, when it's becoming ordinary work? How can it continue?
I really hope that we would just lose the projects and focus on continuing equality work instead of that, because there has been research about gender equality projects, and they are presented as success stories usually, regardless of the outcomes of the projects. And most of the equality projects, they are funded by EU, and EU focuses on these good practices, that they are these technical, simple measures that you can move from one organization to another, and that's not how it works. It oversimplifies, as I said before, it oversimplifies the power structures that are behind inequality and unequal practices. And I don't think you can tackle these inequal structures and practices on short-term projects. But I think it's reality these days. But if I can have a vision about perfect equality work, then it would not be about projects. It would be long-term development work.
I think this is a current problem for Malmö, isn't it? I mean, are you part of the big HOI?
Yes, we was a part of the HOI project, but it was a very small part. We have already taken the political decisions to work with gender mainstreaming, so it was just a plus at the side. We have not built up our gender mainstreaming work as a project. I hope we can manage to continue that. It's never allowed to be a project.
Okay. Thank you very much. I would soon like to open the floor, but please, I would like to give you a few minutes so that you can conclude and present your vision for the future. And we will all listen eagerly. How to continue? How can you inspire us? What are the vision for the future? Because I've heard a lot of people, perhaps not, well, in all countries I would say, that gender mainstreaming doesn't work. Why? We need to stop. We cannot continue. It's nothing to do. I mean, it hasn't worked, so why do we continue? But there might be also, we have seen so many good examples also, which has not been spread, which has not been disseminated, which is difficult also not to disseminate. But what is your vision for the future? Perhaps you could start, Hanna?
Well, I think I want to be optimistic, regardless of everything that I have said here earlier. And I think gender equality is something that we can achieve, and we need to believe in that. And we have plenty of tools to try to achieve gender equality. And we need political will and we need commitment, but I think they are like accessible too. And but I think that we should focus less on tools and looking good on paper. I mean in statistic wise. And we should really remember the goal and negotiate about that. And the goal is gender equality.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I would say that we have to continue to use the facilitating tools we have, the methods and all that, to continue to work the cracks. And a part of that is to share our experience, disseminate. I also think that we have to activate the mobilizing forces, as I said, the grassroots, the civil society. And also I would like to see more feminists in top positions. Now we have been talking about gender quotas for a very long time in the Nordic countries. I would suggest feminist quotas. That might help.
Thank you.
I think the most important thing to remember maybe is that it is possible to make a difference and to make a change. I think we have to remember that. It has been shown before and it will show it again. And I would like to highlight that a lot of the demands raised in the documents is also important for a successful gender mainstreaming, even the demands not just according to gender mainstreaming. And I think it's a question about economic, how it affects us. I think it's important to see about the common welfare, as I was talking before, because I think we need to choose a path how we together can solve just common problems with common solutions. I think it's a key to do that, and a strong welfare governed by values, by solidarity and equality is important also to make gender and gender equality work.
Yes. Thank you very much for the contribution. It has been very interesting. And I hope that you also have some questions to the panel, or you have something, an experience to share with us, a vision to share with us. So please, who will take the floor? Yes? Could you please help?
Thank you. My name is Malin Ramblom. I'm a researcher from Umeå University. I just wanted to, if you read this document, gender mainstreaming is presented as a proactive strategy. And listening to you, I can hear some of your comments going that way and some of the comments going another way. I just would like if you could reflect on the possibility that what gender mainstreaming, especially I'm now talking from the Swedish case, where gender mainstreaming is gender equality integration policy or integration strategy, that gender mainstreaming may have turned to be a bit problematic because integrating something is also accepting the format or the structure or the order that is to be implemented. So I'm just wondering if maybe there is a time for another kind of framing instead of gender mainstreaming or gender equality integration. Maybe we need also in relation to Torgedor's comments on feminist quotas, maybe there is a need for a new articulation of this strategy. Thank you.
Yes.
I can just comment on that briefly. I think that's a very important question to ask, and in neoliberal governance and in culture of new public management, gender equality also has been translated into the language of efficiency, and therefore it's really important that we keep asking that what kind of society do we want to have, and what is the driving force when we talk about equality. I can't answer that, but I think that's something that we always have to keep in mind.
I would like to say that I was very relieved in the beginning of 2001, 2002, when I was reading about gender mainstreaming, because it was supposed to be transformatory. So now we're going to change the whole system, but we haven't been doing that. And I think it's a very important question that you brought up. We've been trying to address it and talking about what society are we aiming at and so on. So in many cases, I think gender mainstreaming has become like a box ticking. So we are more or less adapting to the current system. And that's the risk. So I tend to see gender mainstreaming as one method of many others in order to create a new gender equal society. So it never became this big solution, this big thing, and it won't be, I think. So I have a very practical view on it. So we have to find other ways. We always have to bear this in mind, that it has its downsides. And one of it is what you're bringing up. It's the risk of complacency, that we're adapting to the system. And the system is changing all the time. We've got more, the society we live in is getting more and more neoliberal. We're getting more new public management. We're not getting less of it, as we maybe thought some years ago. So I think that's how I see it. This never turned out to be that transformatory, and I tend to see it as one of many other processes, and we have to figure out other ways to proceed. Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I found. Just let me say that I found the document very much, as I was trying to say before. I found it very much focused on the governments, the Nordic thing. I tend to look more to the grassroots, the activism, and more like rebellious things, more radical activism, maybe. Mm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, well, we had a question over there.
I just wanted to know more about this raised wages in Malmö. How is it possible to raise the wages so much? And what was the process leading up to it? Because it sounds like a great strategy, raising the wages for women. Could you elaborate on that?
I will try. I have to admit that English is not the best way for me to explain everything I want to say, but I can try. We raised the wages by 1,000 svenska kronor for 1,000 employees, and it was vårdbiträde. Vårdbiträde in English. Anyone can help me? Vårdbiträde? No, it was in professions.
Assistant, medical assistant.
Assistant nurse, maybe? Yeah.
Yes.
And the social secretary. Two groups, female-dominated, with lower wages, comparing to male jobs with the same level of experience, education, and so on. And when we compared different professions, we saw that this was two groups that had a low salary. So we actually, when we do the budget, we took money and put aside. So it was a raise of the level of wages after ordinary avtalsrörelse.
After
avtalsrörelse, alltså det var
negotiations, after the negotiations between the employer and the employees.
Because every year you have a raise of the wage. This was things we did as a employer after that to actually raise the wages, and I think it was important. You can see when you look at Malmö that the difference in wages between women and men are better now. But it was one step, I think. I think you need to do more of that, but it's a political fight about political priorities. But I'm proud of it.
Thank you. Well, but all these steps concrete steps are very important.
Yes, hello, my name is René Andersson, and I have a question that kind of combines the two of yours. This gender mainstreaming, it's kind of described as an administration routine, and by doing that, it's kind of hard to engage grassroots in trying to change something inside an organization. And the part about the wages, we have had a law against wage discrimination in Sweden from 1981. So it kind of tells the story that now we can do things, but we have been able to do this, and we have been obliged to do this for over 30 years. I think it's really hard. We must remember that we have different strategies that we have to work on. Gender mainstreaming is one part, but we still have to use anti-discrimination and positive action, and that tends to be pushed out when you're just talking about gender mainstreaming all the time. Yeah.
I think I just want to add something, that in the law in Sweden it's against the law to discriminate in the same profession. This was between different professions, and I think we need to be much more proactive to look at between different professions, male and female dominated, because there we see where the differences in conditions and wages and everything is. So I think that's a big issue to take care of.
Well, can I just add one question? Does gender mainstreaming really exclude positive action? Can you think about that? Okay.
Hello, my name is Petra Flaum, and I work with these women at Internationella Kvinnoföreningen in Malmö. Sorry. I wonder, I'm quite confused, because this is a paper going to governments. And we talk about grassroots, and for me this is, you don't have to choose. Of course you have to have top down and, from underneath. But I wonder, because also if we see new neoliberalism is spreading, is this a threat to equality? Is this a left question if you talk politics? Because then, I mean, we don't have any hope. Do you understand what I mean? Because either this is something we do because we do it for humanity and we do it for development. But I mean, if you sitting in your positions really think this is something we do if we have our politics are left to the left, that's where we do it. I mean, for me, it's half the world is right-winged, more than that. I would like some hope to see it much bigger than that.
Well, my answer to this would be that maybe you don't have to phrase it in left or right. Maybe you could take it on the substance. Why is I mean, if people get stuck in left and right, then we right-wing women are left out, or you don't like our solutions or so. Why don't we stick to the things that we're talking about? Why don't we like neoliberalism? What is it in neoliberalism that we think is harmful for gender equality and so on? And why do we think that what we call left-wing is more positive? So if we stick to the subject, the things that we're talking about more than...
Yes, I agree.
That might help.
But
that might help.
You brought it up, so that's why I asked. And you also talked about this. And for me, it's much bigger. It's not a left question at all. This is a much bigger question. But I have one more question. If you could choose...
Or maybe I didn't understand you correctly.
Okay, no, I wonder if you really see this as a left question.
Not really, because you can have left-wing governments, left-wing people who don't understand gender equality at all.
Of course.
Yeah, so that for me it's not that simple.
No,
but you have to. Yeah, so you have to go deeper than that.
Yes.
I met an American the other day who was very left-wing, considered himself to be, but he was talking about the social democratic welfare state, and he said, to me they seem so elitist. Because they rely on the state all the time, and which we are doing here. The state and not the initiative of ordinary people. And I haven't thought about that in these terms before. And that's what we're talking about a little bit here. We're demanding something from the Nordic thing, the governments and so on. Have you ever thought about the social democratic state as an elitist thing? Elitistic.
Well,
this was quite new to me.
Can I ask something? More, if you have one bullet point, because mainstreaming every political area is of course very difficult. If you have one bullet point, what would you choose?
Yes, Bettina. Your first question, I feel I want to try to answer that too. I think it is a question about right or left. Yes, I do, because it's a point of view how you look at the society. And like I've been saying again and again and again, if we have a common problem, we need to have a common solution. And to do that together and put resources to common solutions, there is a big difference between the right and the left. And therefore I see a more potential for feminism and for women's rights in the left part of the politicians and for the solutions. So that's why I think it's a matter of left or right. And if you see the development in Europe or in Sweden, when we see a decrease of the women's rights, when the right are taking more power and so on, so of course I can see how there is a political width in this is important. But also, we have actually chosen to go to the right, which means that we can choose to go to the left. We can together create the society. We have been doing that. So I think it's not to give up. Actually, it's the way to say keep on fighting, actually, I think. And if I have to point only one thing to gender mainstreaming or gender equality issue, I think it's how can you work with the labor market and the conditions for women, I think. And I think that it is an important thing actually to look at gender mainstreaming in that part too. How is it about the conditions? Because it's when you compare male and female conditions at the working labor market, it is important. Stress factor, times you have to work, and so on. So there's a big issue there. I choose that one.
Okay, thank you. I would like to close. Is there anything more? Well, thank you very much. Time is up. And it has been a very interesting discussion, and I hope that we can continue and have visions, and also a vision for a full implementation of gender mainstreaming to reach gender equality in a long-term perspective. Thank you very much, and thank you, Hannah. Yes, that's very difficult to say. I know that you are Torgärder and Martina for your contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you.